This week showcase the process of a project that I have completed. I recently purchased a batch of 6 millimeters turquoise cabochon with the intention to turning it into earrings. I'm happy with how they turned out, but as I watch back the footage and edit it, as I'm thinking um, whether it should be labeled as tutorial. To be honest with you, I'm really far from being an expert. But since we're here, you know that I have decided to put it up on YouTube anyway because I'm sharing this with you. Think of it as a fly on the wall, witnessing my creative process. I don't want to be pompous, not only my creative process, but I'm thinking about in general. My goal is not to present this as a definite tutorial, it's not that, but rather as one reference among many. I will guide you through the process from start to finish, offering a look into the steps involved in jewelry making. Let's dive in and explore the joy of crafting together. Let's go.
This is the pair that I have chosen. The turquoise features a uniform and vibrant color with minimal matrix. It's a cabochon cut. The diameter is in 6 millimeters. So what I do right now with the help of a circle template ruler, I try to figure out what kind of style I want to make for these earrings. Originally, I want to have this bubble wire around the turquoise, so it will be set with bezel setting, and around the stone there will be this crown of bubble wire. I'm going to make a base for this idea, which is a plate of circle measuring 8 to 9 millimeters diameter. The thickness of the plate is in 26 gauge. With the help of a divider, but now that I think about it, I could just use a circle template ruler. It's more complicated this way with the divider, but oh well, it happens. The advantage, however, of using the divider is it is well traced. I guess that is not that bad at all. Now I will cut them with a pair of metal shears. They are not completely in circle. I realize that now that I watch back, but this is alright. I may not smoothen it into a perfect circle. We'll see. I like it like this. Oh, by the way, the video is recorded on the 4 times the normal speed. So, sorry to disappoint you, I am not a superhero. I'm removing this blue plastic protection, and here you can see what I'm trying to create. This metal will serve as the base for the turquoise that will be set in the bezel. Let's make the bezel now. Using the divider again, I will measure the height of the stone. This thing right here is the one that I would want you to find a reference somewhere else. I just use my feeling to measure the height and it actually normally works. The thickness of the bezel is in 28 gauge, and I'm tracing it using the pointy part from the divider and cut using a pair of metal shears. To find out the length of the strip needed, I'm going to measure diameter of the stone. I don't need to encircle it on the stone because I know that it is 6 millimeters. So I will just find the diameter here from my tiny mandrel, which I love. It looked like Harry Potter one, I think. Okay, enough of joking around, you guys. By eyeballing it, it seems like it's nice and snug fit. I'm gonna go ahead and use this measurement, I think. So right now I'm taking my Sharpie marker and mark it. That's where I'm going to cut it. And since they are very small, it's just so easily been done using the wire cutters. For the snug fit, I believe it's important to practice making a bezel setting before determining how tight or loose the bezel band should be. However, the advantage is that you can trust your intuition. Now I'm prepping for the two edges to meet for soldering and prepping the borax for flux. And I cut the solder bits and put the gap just right above the solder. And fire! It will be a super fast process knowing the size. Since this is an Argentium silver, I can actually fuse these two ends together without the soldering a bit. But for some reason, I haven't tried this. Maybe I will do it next time. I'm checking out the heat. I will not quench this because there will be another soldering process to go through. Next, I put the bezel ring back into the mandrel to ensure the circle shape. Hammer these with a rawhide mallet for the both of the bezels. Alright, I'm reassembling the pieces, the circular plates, the bezel ring, and the stones to see how it look like once everything is completed. Right now, I'm working on the circular plates. It is not completely flat, so I attempted to flattening it by putting the brass plate on top of it and hammer successively. This plate is not a jewelry tool, you guys. It's from an old compact powder that I recycled. This is super useful and I'm quite surprised of how tough this plate can be. Next, I'm flattening the surface of the bezel ring by running it over 240 grit sandpaper. Any sanding work takes a lot of time and elbow grease, so I'm going to fast forward and it's better to skip ahead in this video. Let's go back again to the borax dish. I'm going to solder the ring to the plate. To avoid the bezel to move around while heated, I'm going to put a slight weight on this ring. What I'm talking about is a bezel ring, okay? Also, I'm lazy, so I'm going to use just put the solder everywhere on the plate and fire. Okay, done. Let's see how the earrings would look like if I were to add this halo bubble around the bezel. I'm using this very tiny, thin bubble wire. Mm, okay, you guys. Off camera, I asked my daughter if she prefers the halo or not, and she prefers it to be without the halo, and I also agree with her. So off it is. Bye bye, bubble wire. Here I'm cleaning up the edges of the back plates using first the needle file and then coarse sandpaper followed by finer grades. Here I'm sanding flat 1 centimeter of 20 gauge wire for the stud. I'll mark it on the stud and also on the plate where I want to solder the stud. I don't want it to be right in the center. Instead, I want it positioned about a third of the way across the diameter. I've made an attempt to create a dot mark for where the stud will go, here using diamond ball drill bit just to make a shallow dimple. This works. Alright, now for the soldering to set up, always secure the two elements with a bit of tension. In this case, you can either wire them together with titanium wire, or as I'm doing here, I'm taking the advantage of gravity by placing a weight on the cross-lock tweezers, holding the stud to keep it steady. Don't forget to put the solder bit next to the stud. The key to be successful in soldering is not to point the fire on the silver for too long. It will melt the silver altogether, especially if it's in a small object like what I'm doing right now. And as soon as the solder bit melts, you need to turn off the fire. Well, maybe keep it on for 2 seconds more, or 2 seconds is okay, I think, but not longer. That way, the solder bit can melt completely. Okay, done. Let's quench this into the pickle. At this point, we don't need to solder anything anymore. So I'm going to leave it in the pickle bath for a while to wash off the fire stain. Okay, let's move on to the next phase. I'm drilling the bench pin to create an entry point for the stud. This is where I'll sand the surface of the silver and eventually set the stone. Now the buffing work begins. Since I've already sanded the surface with a coarse grit, I will now go over it with 600 grit sandpaper. I also sand the top part of the bezel ring from 600 grit sandpaper all the way to 3000 grit sandpaper to make it really smooth. Okay, this is done. I apologize for the quality of the video. For some reason, the silver glares too much on the screen. Hopefully, you are able to see the smoothness of the surface anyway. Last but not least, before setting the stone, I want to give it a satin finish. I will go over the entire surface with a steel wool. There are many options for achieving a satin finish. Some people use Scotch Brite pads, while others stops at 600 grit sandpaper. However, I find that steel wool works the best for me. Also, don't forget to treat the back part the same thing, sandpaper coarse to fine, and then steel wool. This takes a very long time to do it, so if you see me fast forwarding for 8x, it's just to save you time, but you understand what I mean, right? Once the silver looks good, I clean off the debris of the sanding with this old face brush that I will never ever use on my face again. To set the stone, I'm using this pusher, which I've smoothened beforehand to avoid scratching. Still, this is not an easy job. I have scratched too many bezel settings in the past. My one only tip for you is to keep practicing. Sometimes, after thinking I've done a great job, I find that the stone ends up wiggling. That is definitely a nightmare. So let's check. It's not wiggling. Booyah! It's perfectly secure. Last step. I don't know where I get this, but burnishing the inner side of the bezel is such a satisfying step. I have to be super careful though. Turquoise is one of the softest stone. I happen to ask the AI. It says here turquoise is relatively soft compared to many other gemstones. On the Mohs scale of mineral hardness, turquoise is typically between ranks between 5 and 6. This means it can be scratched by harder materials such as quartz, which has a hardness of 7. And wow, I am finished now. The earrings are so gorgeous. I'm so happy with the result. I love the height of the bezel. It's in perfect height and the satin finish so modern. And I'm so sorry that I don't have the GLSR shot for this pair. I owe you one. I promise you I will do that.
Do you know that my favorite hobbies when I tune into YouTube is watching others create all sorts of things? Everything from jewelry making, cooking, home improvement, gardening, and even life hacks. I find it fascinating to see how different people tackle the same project in unique ways. Sometimes their approach is as simple as breathing, but often they reveal ideas I would never consider. And for me, those moments are like light bulb moments, and I absolutely love it. While I cannot promise that this video will be a light bulb moments for you, I encourage you nonetheless to follow what your heart desires, whether it is in jewelry making or another passion, it's truly worth it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe if you have not already. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell for future updates. I'm C from CBJU Studio Diaries. Happy crafting and remember to always believe in yourself. Until next time, goodbye.